Welcome back to Ultimate Combat Radio, brought to you by Aztec Highway, WDFA on 1280 and 97.5 The Zone.
Welcome back to Ultimate Combat Radio. Mike Stidham here, talking a little mixed martial arts in the studios of 1280 The Zone. Man, okay, so now I understand how this goes down. I've been a promoter so many times when things just go hectic, and I was on the phone with Kipp Kollar just a little while ago, and he said, our truck broke down in Wyoming. We're having to rent audio equipment. We're having to rent all kinds of stuff. So, I'm going to try to take your call, but you're going to have to call me a few times. So we kind of expected this little hiccup. He's not answering right now, but we're going to get back to him. And I really want to address the poll question. I understand I forgot to give out the studio line. If you want to call us, how are you going to call us if you don't know the number? So, Robertina, take it away, young lady.
Call us at 470-570 or 670-1280. Text us at 53318. Text in zone and what you have to say. Or facebook.com/Ultimate Combat Radio.
Very nice. Thank you very much. And, I think I was just a little too amped up about Benson Henderson fought in the UCE, man. It was so awesome. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of spill the beans right now, because last week, if you listened to the show, which apparently even our own guy didn't listen to this, Brandon Kaiser didn't listen to this, but last week I preemptively gave Frankie Edgar the Badass of the Week, because I knew he was going to have a bloody war, all-out, drag-out war, and I predicted he was going to beat Benson Henderson.
Is this what happens when you celebrate before the victory?
Yes. Well, see, I never celebrated. I just preemptively predicted, and I justified that in that if George Bush can attack a country preemptively, saying they were going to attack us, so we might as well go out, I figured I could justify it, right? This is a very Republican state. I thought, they'll jump behind that kind of thinking.
It worked out so well for him, didn't it?
Yeah, well, it didn't work out so well for me either. So Benson Henderson, by virtue of the fact that I preemptively misspoke, he is our Badass of the Week. And he did. That was a big win for him. And it even adds to the fact that that's very cool that he fought in the UCE. He suffered his one and only loss, I believe, or at the time. And then his first fight back was here in Ultimate Combat Experience. He fought David DeGloria back in 2007.
Do you remember meeting him or watching him fight?
I didn't at the time until it was brought to my attention. And absolutely, the guy's a guy you wouldn't forget, because he's one of those personalities that that you just don't see in this sport very often. Very humble and very, very, how should I say, he had a very strong character. He's very ingrained in his belief, and he's never smoked, never drank, never even puffed on a cigarette, and he never will. I mean, the guy tells you he's not going to, and he's not going to, and that's what I remember about him. I just remember him being had very strong character. And then obviously he was a good fighter too. He beat David DeGloria. Was a tough kid.
He was tough, yeah.
He beat him in the first round, so we kind of thought this kid was going to be good.
Oh, that's cool, man. I like hearing that kind of character in the fight world. When I first started getting into the game, I remember how much disillusionment I had with all the guys I looked up to, and I was like, wow, man, these guys do not live clean lives at all. It's not what I expected. So
it's funny you say that too, Brandon, because those characters are so few and far between, and that's why maybe a guy like Benson Henderson resonated so well with me, was that because he was. And when you're in a group of people that don't have that, and then you're able to maintain it, it really resonates with you.
Yeah, I completely agree, and it's good to see people with that kind of character rewarded by working hard and winning fights.
Yeah, absolutely. Now he's the champ, man. He's the title holder.
There is a long list of UCE fighters fighting in the UFC right now, huh?
There really are, and we're going to touch base on a couple of them. Well, in fact, two of them fighting tonight down in Australia. We're going to check in on that action in just a moment. But Brandon, I want to pick your brain a little bit about the poll question, because I know you've been around the fight game a long time, and you've had to have seen fights that were just overhyped, fights that you thought, come on, man. Well, and then they ended up being, come on, man.
Oh, man. Great minds think alike, and that's why I think we usually agree. But tonight, I completely disagree with you.
I know who you're talking about, too.
You mentioned when a legend steps in the ring, it doesn't matter who they're going up against. That's a fight that's worth hyping. I think when a really good fighter who's built a big name and become a quote-unquote legend steps into the ring is the prime candidate for an overhyped fight. The last 10 Mike Tyson fights, every single Kimbo Slice fight, that doesn't meet that criteria, but all of Mike Tyson's recent fights were perfect examples of that. he was over the hill, washed up. They found chumps for him to fight. He had accomplished amazing things early on in his career, and then they just used those early accolades to hype fights against nobodies. So
point well taken.
I think,
and I agree with you on that. And we really saw that with Oscar De La Hoya as well in the last few fights that he had, where they really tried to make a big deal over it. And De La Hoya, he had just lost a step, and he just wasn't exciting to watch anymore.
I'm pretty sure all boxing is overhyped.
I'm not going to argue that point either, except for my little amateurs that we got over at the gym there. I'll hype them all day long.
Well, it's kind of bad that they're starting to do it with the UFC too, because when you're a mixed martial artist and you're a fan of the UFC, I mean, it just really hurts to see that they would rather sell tickets than put on the show.
And it's you have to realize it is a business, but at the same time, it's like any other business. If you're a Walmart or whoever, if you're a real a store and you sell shabby product, I don't care what a price you're giving it for if the people aren't going to come back and buy it again, and so especially if you say, hey man, this is a great product, and it doesn't turn out to be that way. And I know as a fighter you take that personally because you want people coming to those shows wanting to see good fights, and then it's got to be a little bit of a
I got Kipp.
All right, I'm told we got Kipp on the line. I'm so happy to hear that, and I want to give him a little quick introduction now. He's a student of the game since before UFC 1, an undefeated MMA fighter. He's 5-0. Kipp's been both a referee and a judge for the Ultimate Fighting Championship. He commentates for MMA events on MSG Network, Fox Sports Net, and Black Belt TV. Like the organization he represents, Kipp's experience and expertise is uniquely comprehensive. Now, I really like that because he is a very unique and comprehensive individual. Kipp Kollar, welcome to the program.
Oh, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I know you're super busy, and I know what you've got going on, so thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, now let's get right into it, man. This is a sports talk radio station, so for the benefit of those listening that might not know much about submission grappling, can you kind of give us a little history? What is submission grappling? What might somebody see at the NAGA tournament tomorrow?
Well, there's really two elements of a submission grappling tournament. There's something called no-gi, which is kind of like the UFC when you watch Ultimate Fighting on television. There's no striking, but, the competitors will wear, like, shorts and a T-shirt or rash guard, and they take each other down, and they earn points for takedowns and submission attempts. They're trying to make the other person quit through some type of lock, pain lock, an arm lock, a choke, a wrist lock, an ankle lock. And then we have the other side of the fence, which is the gi competition, which is similar to like judo or aikido or jiu-jitsu, where they wear a traditional karate outfit, and they do the same type of submission moves and takedowns, but they use the gi as a weapon against their opponent to submit them. So the whole idea is to get your opponent to tap out from a submission lock, before the time runs out.
All right. And now NAGA is widely recognized as the premier submission grappling organization in the country. How have you been able to build that empire that we know as NAGA, and what sets it apart from the rest?
We started 20 years ago, and just like anything else, when it becomes popular, people try to jump on the bandwagon, but it's a little late, for them. And the other thing is, running a professional organization is the key to success in any business. And, it's just something that we've done ever since day one, 20 years ago or 18 years ago. And people appreciate it. They come back, they tell their friends, and, the company grows. And that's basically what has happened with NAGA over the past 18 years.
And I think to kind of expound on that you've got a ton of divisions. You're giving out belts. You're doing 35 tournaments a year. There's nobody else that's even in that realm of what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I mean, we were trying to determine where we wanted to go with the company a few years back, and the money we were making, we just reinvested in buying more 18-wheeler trucks, buying more mats. Educating our staff, putting them through training. Everybody who works with us is professional. They've gone through training. They have a lot of experience. And, that's the key to success. And like I said, almost in any business, that's the key to success. But I think when you see a lot of other grappling tournaments, it's typically put on by someone trying to make a quick buck. And, their referees have been doing it for 5 or 10 years. And you could tell. I mean, you spend money, you train real hard, you get to a tournament, you fight, and then someone's biased or someone, blows a call. And that's what it's all based on. They need to know the rules. You want to be treated professionally, and you want a non-biased referee. And, we try to give people all those things when they come to a NAGA event.
Who is Kipp Kollar?
Oh, man, I'm a guy who loves fighting and just, very fortunate that I, 15 years ago decided that I didn't want to sell computer systems and I wanted to, go down this path of promoting events and fighting in events. And when you do something that you're passionate about as a livelihood, it typically is a successful venture, and that's what this has been.
Why bring NAGA to Utah?
It's funny. We started off on the East Coast, kind of moved across the country at a slow pace, and made it out to Vegas. And now we're trying to go past Vegas. We're going past. We want to be in Utah. I don't think Utah geographically is more west than Las Vegas, but the whole idea is to do more shows out here. We have our 18-wheeler with the mats out here, and we do a show every weekend. So rather than come all the way out to Vegas and then head back to the East Coast, we figured we'd stop at a few other places, see if it was successful. Utah is a great success. We're excited about coming back here in September. We're going to try San Francisco. We're going to try Oregon, and just keep expanding. We went outside the country this year or last year to Paris and had 500 competitors. So we went back there again this year, and other countries like South Africa and Germany this year. So
awesome.
It's growing, and there's a lot of grapplers out there that want to fight.
That's great, man. That's very exciting. Now, I'm going to maybe shift gears a little bit. I'm going to say a word that probably just wakes you up at night sometimes. Sandbagging. Sandbagging, and for the indoctrinated, is a term that's used in grappling for people that kind of compete in divisions that they're probably a little more skilled than. And this is something that I know you've gone through great lengths to try to address. How do you address it? What steps have you taken to curb sandbagging in your tournaments?
Well, we try to give people a range. If you've been training for 6 months and you're really new, then you're a novice. If you've been training for a year or two, then you're a beginner. If you've been training for 3 or 4 years, maybe you're intermediate. And then, if you've been training for 5 or 6 years, you're an expert. But those are just guidelines. There are some people that train for 6 months that are better than people who've been training for 4 years. And so we try to give everybody this speech. We interview every fighter and say, hey, how long have you been training? Have you done other sports? Were you a wrestler? Did you do gymnastics? Ask them, are you really good compared to other people that have been training the same period of time where you train? We do this interview between the referee and the competitor to try to give them, we want to put them in a division where they're going to be challenged. Nobody wants to walk over everybody.
Right.
And at the same time, you don't want to get walked over yourself. You want it to be a fair match. So our goal is to try to interview everybody and put them in the appropriate division. Sometimes we have people that blatantly lie to us. They say, I've only been training 3 months, but they've been doing it 3 years, just because they want to win, that first place prize.
Right.
And so what our referees will do is, if they can obviously see someone is not a novice and they're really skilled, they'll stop the match before they hurt somebody, pull them out, and move them into a more, skilled, a more advanced skill level.
See, and I had no idea that you go through that interview process. I think that is great. I applaud you for that. And I was reading, as much as I could about you today, and some guy had started a blog and he was complaining that one of his students was beating everybody up, and you stepped in and said, no, you don't belong in this division. You need to go up. And he said that trying to rally people to support him. And what I read there was, man, I applaud Kipp for having the audacity to go, or to having the courage to go in there and say, look, man, I want fair matches. I've got 6 other kids here that I want them to have good, fair matches. And so I thought it was awesome.
Well, I have 2 kids, a 6-year-old and an 11-year-old, and they're both fairly new to grappling, especially my 6-year-old. He's been doing it for about a year. And I don't want to see my son get destroyed by some kid who's been doing it for 3 years. I don't want my son to get hurt. And, he's not having a good time. I mean, it's okay for you to teach your kid. It's okay to lose. But when, they're vastly outmatched and the score is 18-0 and your kid's crying, that's not appropriate. Unless, it's an expert division and they're the best kids there and my kid loses. But, for the most part, you just want it to be a fun, fair match. And there's no fun in losing 18-0 and getting smashed. So, I always tell my referees, just think of it as it's your son or daughter that's about to fight this other kid. And what would you do in the situation? Feel like the parent feels. The kid's not going to want to go back to class. He's not going to want to grapple anymore, and he's certainly not going to want to compete in one of our shows. So, you have to go in there with that attitude and just try to keep it fair for everybody.
Agreed, 100%. All right, what's the cost of admission? Where is the show, and how would people go about getting in?
It's at the Legacy Sports Center. I don't know the name of this. I don't know the name of the town off the top of my head. Sorry.
You're in Farmington. I'll give out the address before we end the show here.
Yeah.
So we'll give that out. But how much does it cost to watch?
It's $15 to watch, and the show starts around 10:30. The little kids start off first. Around 1 o'clock, we start the adults, and the whole show is done about 5 o'clock.
That is awesome. We're super excited about it. Myself, my wife, my kid, my fellow radio show host here, we're all going to be competing tomorrow. So we're looking forward to being there, and I'm definitely going to come up and say hello, and we really appreciate you bringing this thing to Utah.
Hey, I appreciate it. We pull a lot of UFC fighters, too, at these shows. Benson Henderson, who just won the lightweight title against Frank Yeager. Both those guys fight in NAGA on a regular basis when we're in Arizona and when we're in Jersey. So you'll probably see a bunch of UFC fighters here competing tomorrow as well.
That is awesome. So, man, we look forward to it, man. And once again, thank you so much for coming to Utah.
Hey, thank you very much, and good luck to you and your family tomorrow.
All right, Kipp, thank you so much. Man, good stuff. And yeah, I really I can't overemphasize this enough, that how cool I think it is that they go through that much painstaking measures to try to make these things fair.
Yeah, because I hear down, I think it was you or somebody else told me down in Pan Am's, it's really hard because those guys are bad.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Well, I mean, and I think myself, I've actually been in this situation before. When I was a kid, I tried to go participate in boxing, and I had started training. I had only been training for 2 weeks, and they had threw me in with a guy I'd been fighting for 2 years. I lost and got discouraged and quit. So, I mean, for kids to go in there and just compete against somebody that's at a higher level than them, it just breaks them down, and they probably don't want to do it again.
No, yeah, I agree with you. And we had an interesting scenario kind of arise at our gym where we've got 2 kids that wrestled this last year. One of them wrestled at kind of a higher level, and one of them, to be honest with you, I think his only win was against a girl. And so you can on paper look at them and say they belong in the same division, but the reality of it is they don't. And the fact that these guys are willing to go through the process of interviewing these guys, I think says a lot. You can ask a guy, you wrestled this year, yeah, but my record is 1-6 versus my record had a lot of wins.
Yeah, it's an exciting event, man. I'm excited to take the team down tomorrow and cheer you guys on and see how it's going.
I'm super excited about that. Brandon, you kind of dodged the question, though. Were there any fights that were hyped that you didn't feel like they made the mustard?
I'm going to shoot myself in the foot here. I'll tell you the most overhyped fight of all time, George St. Pierre versus Matt Serra. I turned my back to the TV, and I was like, you guys are idiots for paying for this fight. I can't believe you wasted. And then I turned back around, and George St. Pierre was knocked out. So I guess, sometimes.
Yeah, I agree with that, man.
Who knows?
It is MMA, and anything can happen, especially at the world-class level. I'll give you that. All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back and talk some UFC with Joe the Great White Martinez when we come back.